Rightio, so our next step once we've got these two lengths of timber is to get them down into a rectangular piece. So at the moment we've got tongues and we've got grooves sticking out on the edges, and so I need to have a look at the plan, and yours will be different, but on mine the big long piece on the left has both the lid and the base as part of it. So that's actually the widest piece of timber that I need to use. These other four pieces, the front, back, left and right, they're only 72 mils, but these ones are 107. So in other words, I need to cut that whole piece to 107 first so that I've got it wide enough for the base and the lid. So I'm going to do that first, and I'll have a quick look at this other piece. The other piece is getting cut down to 56, so it's quite small. So basically I'm going to start by just ripping off the groove, and then I'll cut it down to 107 and see what we've got left. So as per normal, we just make sure the blade is only about a centimetre or above the timber. We cut off our groove first by setting this fence at 131. Again, it's assumed that you've watched the videos on how to use the table saw, but remember I'm measuring on the right hand side over here. This one over here is only for on the other side of the blade, probably don't need to know that yet. Just a few basic safety checks to make sure everything's clear, and anyway, we're good to go. So let's take this off, taking off the groove. I'll do that on both pieces. And we just checked the plan for the width, which was 107 millimeters. So that's my long piece, it needs to come down to 107. So I'll set this at 107. And at this point, I would look for any knots and things like that as well, because like this is the lid and the base are 107, but the rest of it's only 72. So that means there's a whole extra 30, almost 40 mils that's going to be left over. So if I had a knot up here, for example, I'd try and think about that. Actually, no, it doesn't matter at this point. That's only if you've got like faulty edges and things like that and you want to try and get rid of it. But no, we're just getting it down to 107, aren't we? So cut that off. Yeah, well, I guess this is what I was talking about. If you've got an extra whole centimetre over there, or 10 mils, so if you found that you had a knot on this side, over in that corner, it might have been sensible to cut it to the full width first and then make a decision and cut off this side to bring it down to the final width, 107. This other piece, I'm just going to get rid of the tongue in the same way, so I've got square edges. In fact, I'll take this to the maximum width that I can get it. In other words, I've just cut off the tongue, so I've got a square edge here and a square edge there. And later on, when it comes to working out these pieces, I might, for example, be able to get my 56 down the side here and throw away that bit with the knot on it. So that's just planning out your project. All right, so now that I've got this down to the width of the lid and the base, now what I'm going to do is cut off the lid and the base. And it says on my plan here that it's 231 wide. So I'm just going to come back around here to the drop saw and measure off the lid and the base at 231 millimeters. So I'll cut one of those. 231 is there. And I'm just going to sit the lid on top of the base, drop the blade down in an off position and slide it up until it just touches the blade. In other words, my lid, they're sitting on top of each other there. So I've got the one that I've cut on top, I've bring the blade down and so that it just touches the side of that top piece of wood, and now I'll be able to cut them and they both be exactly the same length because I used the first one to set the position of the saw blade. Alright, so that's my two lids. Oh, sorry, my lid and my base. And so now I've got these other four pieces, which it says on the left here, they're only going to be 72 wide. So I'll go back to the table saw and cut this down to 72. And as per the last one, just make sure you have a look at, see if there's any knots and try and get rid of the knots so that you don't have to have knots in your project. 72, or whatever your measurement is. Have a good look, see which side's better, whether there's a knot to get rid of. Okay, and that's scrap, that's my project piece. So now while we're here, I think we're probably better off not cutting all these little pieces out. I mean, what have we got here? This other piece that we had left has to be for all those inside pieces, the latch, the inner inside box and all that sort of stuff. And I guess I might as well cut it while I'm here. 56 is my width, so I'll just set this to 56. And I'm going to try and get rid of that knot that's up there. And so now my scrap's out of the way. I'm actually going to hang on to that piece just in case, because it is actually wider than the other one, and so if I find out that I need an extra piece, then I'll have it. In fact, I might as well even just trim it down to the right size now. Okay, and that gives me a spare piece because I've got a few knots in that section, so I might use this bit and that bit because they're both down to the 56 mils, and so they're both the right size. Okay, so that's all our pieces. Got those ready to cut out, so next bit's going to be marking out.